Good morning, my friends. How are you? Welcome to another edition of Behind the Mic with me, Mike Avery, here from the Outdoor Magazine radio studio on a very warm, kind of a weird Wednesday morning. In fact, the warnings just went off here in the studio for a severe thunderstorm coming through the area, but I guess that's to be expected when it was so cold yesterday. And now it's going to be warm today and then cold tomorrow. Good morning, Craig. How are you? Craig, we got our numbers back on our Trinity Monitor Wild Game Dinner, which you, of course, were a part of, and it was a record year for us. So, Craig, I appreciate your support. Good morning, John. How are you? Tim, always a pleasure. It was nice to see you and Jen in West Branch. Ross, always a pleasure to see you in West Branch as well. Cliff, good morning. Appreciate you joining us. Tommy, good morning. Jerry checking in from Algonac. Good morning, Jerry. How are you? Robert, thanks for joining me on this edition of Behind the Mic. Here from the Outdoor Magazine radio studio, I'll tell you who's coming up on this week's show here shortly. Jim, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it. Bernie says lots of rain. Yeah, it rained all night, and now I understand there's a storm coming through the area again. Kevin, how are you this morning? Thanks for joining me on this edition of Behind the Mic. Hey, Joe, you snuck in there. I didn't see you. How are you? Nick says tornado watch already there till 4 p.m. And like I said, we got to expect it when the temperature's going up and down like this, up and down. Yesterday was surprisingly cold, wasn't it? Now look at today. Hello, David. James, I don't recognize your name. Are you part of, are you with Jordan and those guys? Are you part of the family? Anyway, I don't recognize you, the name. Thanks for joining us over on YouTube this morning. Randy, Dwight, Ross, you got it right. It's better than snow. That's for sure. That is for sure. And we've had a lot of that this spring, haven't we? Anyway, it's David says, rumbling here in Saginaw. I can't hear it. I'm here in the studio. The skies are looking pretty dark, though. Oh, I heard one right there. Yep. Anyway, my friends, how are you? Again, thanks for joining me on this edition of Behind the Mic. I say behind the mic because I'm here behind the mic. Hey, Tom. Where'd you go, Tom? Good morning. Brent, how are you? Say hi to Tracy for me. Johnny Bowler, the Bear Whisperer. Hey, buddy, how are you? Dave, nice to see you. And my friends who were with us at the Trinity dinner, we had our official debriefing meeting last night. Uncle Johnny, how are you? Yeah, he was. Yeah, that's very true. It says rain, thunder, and lightning in the northeast part of the lower. Johnny, do you think you're done plowing snow finally? Anyway, we had our official debrief from our Trinity Monitor Wild Game Dinner, and we had a record year. So all of you who helped with that, I do certainly appreciate it. Thank you for your support. New to the channel. Well, thank you, James. I hope you can join us more often. By the way, I also do a live stream, a Wednesday night live at 7 o'clock. So feel free to join us then. Do you have ham? Tom, it's interesting you talk about that because he said it should get the mushrooms popping. That's one of my topics of discussion this week on the show. I'm talking with Clay Edney, Michigan's Morel Master, and he will join me in the second hour of this week's show to talk about mushrooms, springtime mushrooms. Hey, Todd, how are you? How have you been? You been in the water? Anything good? Any good fishing reports, Todd? Craig, I should show you this. Remember this mug? Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation. You gave that to me. I use it quite often. Oh, Johnny says lots of ice, wind, trees, power lines, and poles broken. I didn't realize that. Jason checking in from the Ford Dearborn truck plant. Excellent. Michigan Outdoors posted a pick of mushrooms yesterday or today. They're coming. They're on the way, and this rain and temps should help. River is muddy. Yeah, Saginaw River is muddy as well, too. But I saw some pics from Saginaw Bay. Guys are out there pounding the snot out of big fish on Saginaw Bay. Hey, Doug. Good morning, Cap. How are you? Ooh, I almost drank the wrong way. In fact, Doug, you are on the list to talk with on the Angler Quest podcast. I did talk with Mr. Angler Quest himself, Brad Dupuy, about my boat. Getting excited. So anyway, I walked out the door this morning. I look younger than the mug does, or with the mug. Okay. Here I look old. Here I look young. Here I look old. Here I look young. Is that the way it works? Speaking of things that make me look younger, here is the snack in the studio this morning. Michigan brand meats. This is not the Mike Avery Hunter Stick. This is the Colorado style smoked beef. And this is a good one. Charlie's going to enjoy that when he comes in. Johnny says he's way over the snow. Hi, Jeremy. How are you? All right, Johnny, we'll talk to you tonight, buddy. Will you be home or will you be at Andy's? Doug says he loves the new wide body tunes. They're 6 inches wider. You wouldn't think you'd notice it, but you do. Brad said he got his ham from Nick yesterday. We will give away one last Michigan brand ham tonight. Now, you're not going to get it in time for Easter. I went over to Jack's, my local Jack's Fruit Market, Monday and bought our ham for Easter. We always have a Michigan brand ham. Well, good morning to you, Mad Jack. How are you? Right back at you. Ross said they are all good. Certainly, they are all good. Johnny will be at home tonight, but you'll be thinking about going over to Andy's when we're done. Oh, let's see. Somebody sending me an email offering me a guest for my podcast. When I get emails about my podcast, I immediately delete them. Turn that around. Good morning, Jim. How are things in Hersey? John, it's waiting for me, but we're going to tweak it. I talked to Brad yesterday, and we're going to make some changes on that boat. In fact, one of the changes is it's got a new 300 horse Mercury outboard on it. We're going to swap it for the 300 Merc outboard that I ran last year, so I don't have to break the thing in. There's a good boom right there. Oh, and it's dark out there right now. Sending my wife a text, make sure everything's good up her. Kevin says it's stormy in West Branch this morning. Jim says it's wet. Hey, Mike was talking about field trials. I want to put your post up there, Mike. Okay, so I walked out the door this morning, heading down to the studio, and the first thing that hit me was the smell. It smells like springtime, and to me, it smells like night crawlers. When I walked out the door, it smelled like night crawlers. Now, that's probably not it. Saginaw River is running high. Yeah, absolutely it is. In fact, if you had a choice right now of fishing the river or Saginaw Bay, I'd go out on the bay. I'd go out on the bay right now. I've seen some pictures of some big fish on the bay. In fact, I posted a picture on my Facebook page of a guy who was listening to my podcast, the podcast version of the radio show, when he got his own personal best. He finally got a 10-pound fish. I've never caught a 10-pound walleye. I've caught a 31-inch walleye, but it was in August, and she was about 8 pounds. All right, Ross, have a good day. Go sell some trucks. Good morning, Carl. How are you? Thanks for joining me on this edition of Behind the Mic. Okay, so it smelled like, I allow crawlers in the lawn. I love night crawlers, Tim. I was going to tell the story when I was a kid going out to pick them up for trout season. I just don't like them for walleye fishing. Gunnersville, Alabama. Where'd we go? Gunnersville, Alabama. There we go. Roger is getting ready for turkey season. So am I. Good morning, Mike. How are you? Okay, so it smelled like night crawlers this morning. Got me thinking about spring. Got me thinking about my boat. I talked to Mr. Angler Quest himself yesterday, Brad Dupuy. And he says, Mike, we're ready to rock. He says, you'll have your boat here pretty soon. Although I hope I don't get it on April 22nd because that's the opening day of my turkey season. I did sight my new bow in earlier in the week. I got a 10-point Viper S400. And man, is that thing a shooter. She's raining pretty good right now. That thing is certainly a shooter. I tried to, hey there, Mike, how are you? I tried to start sighting it in at about 20 yards, and I couldn't because it blew through my Reinhardt 18-1 target. Now, my Darton, I actually think I feel like my Darton shot a little faster, and according to the speed ring on my scope, it did. But my Darton didn't blow through my Reinhardt target at 18 yards or 20 yards like my 10-point does. Any reason on the switch from the Darton? Yeah, absolutely. I love Darton. I support Darton. I think Darton is a great company. But Darton has no plans to make a decocking crossbow, and I wanted a crossbow I could decock. So I looked at Raven, I looked at 10-point, and decided to go with 10-point. Nothing against Darton. Darton makes a great bow. They make a fast bow. They make a quiet bow. I love them. But I wanted a bow I could decock, and Darton says they're not going to make one, so I did make the switch. What broadheads am I going to be shooting? I'm going to be shooting the Rec Expandable. The Rec Expandable. Doug says, speed ring on your scope. What's this? It's actually the zoom. A lot of people don't understand this, Doug. When you get a variable power crossbow scope and you're adjusting the magnification from, say, 2 to 7, actually what you're doing is you're adjusting that second focal plane and you're adjusting it to dial it in for the speed of your bow. So it might say 350, 380, 300 or whatever, but you're actually affecting the magnification. And what you do is on this particular crossbow scope, it's a Vortex Crossfire, you zero it at 40. And then you go out to 80 and you shoot and you see where your arrow drops. If your arrow is low, you turn the speed ring or the magnification, the speed down. If it shoots high, you turn the magnification or the speed ring up. So what you do is you get it to correspond. If you zero it at 40 and then you get your speed / magnification adjusted so your 80-yard shot is right on, then all of your reticles should line up 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, and maybe even 100. I'm not going to shoot anything at 80 or 100 yards, but then I know my crosshairs, my reticles have lined up. Good morning, ML. How are things in Louisiana? Tim says he used to sell crawlers. Now he buys them from a guy named Walt. Bill says, West Dayton Outdoors checking in. Good morning, Bill. How are you? Okay, thank you, Scott, for bringing this up. Currently, Scott Hand of Walleye for Warriors says, currently looking for more boat captains for Walleye for Warriors. The veteran registration is back open. Might not last long on the vets. Okay, go to walleyesforwarriors.org. The website, walleyesforwarriors.org. They're looking for boat captains. Now, you don't have to be a certified charter captain. You just have to have a boat that is capable of big water and taking some anglers out and be willing to do it. June 10th and 11th out of Linwood Beach Marina on Saginaw Bay. Go to walleyesforwarriors.org and register to become a boat captain. Also, good morning, Gene. Good morning, Steve. Also, they're looking for veterans, walleyesforwarriors.org. Darton doesn't support youth hunting in Michigan. I've asked for 6 years. Killer Instinct is made in Michigan and donates. I don't think Killer Instinct's actually made in Michigan. I think they're made overseas and shipped back to Michigan. John, I tell you, the poaching in my area, Wolverine, is terrible. We had 27 turkeys around here 5 years ago. 3 times had beards dragging. Now no time. That's not necessarily, John, a poaching issue. The turkey population is on the decline, both here in Michigan and nationally. And it has biologists and hunters concerned. And so far, they've come up with no definite answer on that. But I don't deny you have a poaching problem, but I'm just saying, John, don't necessarily attribute the drop in turkey numbers in your area to poaching. It could be the same thing that's affecting turkey numbers everywhere. Oh, Corey says, and make sure you're set up for walleye. One guy didn't have any walleye lures, etc. He set up to bass fish. Yeah, make sure you're set up the troll for walleye, right? Good morning, Mad Jack. I knew what you were saying. Okay, let me respond to a text from my wife, Nisi. Okay, I got the ... That means she's typing something. I just told her to keep an eye on the weather. Okay. Andrew, what did you miss? You missed the most insightful and thought-provoking comments that I've ever made, Andrew. That's what you missed. Roger said, could be predators, could be. Dave says, DNR says they still have a few spring turkey permits for those who haven't received one yet. They've always have leftover permits. But I still go out and spend the $5 because I like ZZ Southern Michigan private land because I can hunt. Yeah. I just made some very insightful comments, Andrew, and you missed them. Michael said he helped 2 partially paralyzed vets last year through vets.org get bear kills with houndsmen. That's excellent, Michael. That's wonderful. Wonderful. Okay. Let me tell you, could be coons, could be coyotes, could be fox, but it's not necessarily poaching. That's my point. It's not necessarily poaching. It could be. Andrew says tornado watch now. And I'm glad you said watch, Andrew, because a lot of people will say, oh, there's a tornado warning. No, a tornado warning is when somebody has spotted a funnel. A tornado watch just means keep your eye to the sky. Right, Charlie?
That's right.
And Charlie, look what I have for you. Michigan brand, Colorado style smoked beef. Makes me want to drink a beer. Elliot, I enjoyed the trail cam pictures you sent me and I shared. Elliot said he had 9 strutters in the backyard. Build the habitat, control the predators. Amen, brother. Jake says, good day on the Detroit River yesterday. Good morning, Mike. Good morning to you, Jake. Good morning, Jack. How are you? Here's who's coming up on this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show, which is why I'm here right now. I'm in the Outdoor Magazine radio studio. You can see this, right? I have my 2 official microphones. This is my social media microphone, and this is my official broadcast microphone. Shortly, I will put my official broadcast headphones on so I can hear myself. Here's who's coming up on the Outdoor Magazine radio show this week. Brian Burrows, the executive director of Trout Unlimited, talking about trout fishing in Michigan. The traditional opening day of trout season is coming up the last Saturday in April. Then Tony Smoker of Mad Hatter Jigs. I want to talk to him about his jig company and why he thinks his jigs are the best. Clay Edney, Michigan's Morel Master, joins me in hour number 2 to talk about when that season might kick off. Nick Green of MUCC, and then this week's Ask Avery segment. In our 3rd hour, Greg Abbas, we're talking turkey with Greg Abbas, and then, of course, we'll wrap it all up with wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Miner. I'm also doing an offshore tackle podcast today as well. Len says, makes me want to drink a beer, too. Have a blessed Easter, Mike. Well, right back at you, Pastor. That's one of the things I'll talk about in the radio show, and let me just mention it here right now. Len's brought it up. And if these types of things offend you, I used to say, well, I'm sorry, but I'm not anymore. And I'll mention this again on the radio show. Tomorrow, Monday, Thursday, Friday, Good Friday, Sunday, Easter Sunday. I understand that we have to have Easter eggs and Easter bunnies and chocolate eggs and all that stuff for the kids. I get that. But I'm going to ask you to remember what the real reason for this season is. And it's not the Easter bunny and it's not chocolate eggs. It's not even a Michigan brand ham. The real reason for Easter is about resurrection. It is about an empty tomb. It's about salvation. It's about getting some help in today's world. Today's world sometimes sucks, right? We're going the wrong direction. I think that's pretty clear. It's pretty obvious. I personally could not get through a day, a week, a month, or my life without some help. I choose to get some help from God. So that's why, as a Christian, this Sunday coming up is the most holy and the single most important day of the year. So I'm asking you to please keep that in mind this Easter season. And again, if it bothers you, I don't care. I don't care. I used to worry, oh, that's going to offend people. I don't worry about it anymore. If it offends you, so be it. But maybe you should do a little self-reflection. Anyway, I'm back. A lot of people saying, hey, I agree with you, brother. Yeah. Thank you, Richard. Appreciate that. Amen, Pastor Mike. Hey, just because I've done 3 weddings, a vow renewal, and a funeral, and I'm going to do my daughter Shelby's wedding this summer, Labor Day weekend. She asked me to perform the ceremony and actually marry her and my new soon-to-be son-in-law, Aditya. People say, how are you going to do that? How are you going to walk her down the aisle and then marry her? Well, I'm easy. I'm going to walk her down the aisle, and then I'm going to turn around and perform the ceremony to marry her. It might be a little emotional. Might be a little tough. We'll get through it. Anyway, walleyesforwarriors.org. If you want to volunteer to be a boat captain, I am not a boat captain this year because I will be just getting back from a bear hunt in White River, Ontario, Canada. I'm really looking forward to that. Hey, Dave, how are you? It was good to see you last night. And Dave, I confirmed with my bride last night after hearing the request from your bride. Yeah, we can do 10, or we can do your 8 plus us 2. Like I told Karen, I said, it'll be a little crowded, but we all know each other and just, it'll be fun. We might drink some wine. We might drink some beer. Well, you guys will. I won't, because I'll be running the boat. And I might be smoking a cigar. So as long as you let me smoke a cigar, Dave, we can get 10 people on the boat. Elliot says, Mike, have you ever thought about sitting on the NRC? I actually have, Elliot. But I'm not interested. I don't consider myself qualified. I don't consider myself educated enough. So it's not something I would be interested in. I knew what you meant, Ellie. I knew what you meant. Tim says, just read the script. You'll do fine. You see that there, Charlie? That little thing there for you? Okay. I figured between that and the Michigan brand, we're good to go. Let's see if I can hear that. I'm not, Charlie, but I know you I shouldn't, because the right button isn't pushed. Or is it? It is? No, I'm not hearing myself. And that's why we do a test before. My mic is plugged into, and I'm not hearing my mic yet. Right. No, I'm not hearing that either. Are you? There, now I got it. Okay. Good, because we only got 25 seconds. 25 seconds. Okay, 25 seconds, which means in about 20 seconds, I got to shift my focus from this microphone to this microphone. It also means I will not be able to directly interact with you. I will not be able to answer your questions. 10 seconds. But please join me tonight at 7 o'clock for another edition. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, blast off. That's what I'm listening to right now.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show.
The opening of the show, which means I got to go to work. You can't call it work. I know that. But please join me tonight if you can at 7 o'clock for another edition of Wednesday Night Live. We will give away one final Michigan brand ham for Lent. You're not going to get it in time for Easter, right? You're not going to get it in time for Easter. But you can have it as an after Easter snack. All right, my friends. All right. Well, thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to another edition of the Outdoor Magazine radio show right here on more than 30 radio stations across the great state of Michigan, and glad to have you along with us. As we enter the Easter weekend, or wrap up the Easter weekend, depending on when you are listening to the show. It's been an interesting week weather-wise, hasn't it? As I'm sitting here in the studio right now, we just had some good storms come through. It's a really, really warm day. As I walked out the door this morning to come to the studio, a thought entered my mind. And the thought was, it smells like night crawlers out here. Now, I realize it probably doesn't smell like night crawlers. It just smells like fresh, warm, wet earth. But to me, it's like, it smells like night crawlers. I should be out picking up night crawlers. Well, no, because I don't use night crawlers for walleye. But when I was a kid, we used night crawlers for trout. And I remember on those warm, rainy nights going out there with a flashlight and searching for night crawlers. And I can tell you, as a kid, It was an adventure. It was almost as much fun as using those night crawlers to go fishing with, because you'd have to sneak up on them, right? They can feel your vibrations. If you come pounding up on them, they can feel that. And they're going to dive back down their hole. So you got to be sneaky. You got to be stealthy. You got to be quiet. So we take these old batteries that had old flashlights that had 2 D-cell batteries in them, and they weren't very bright to begin with, right? Remember those things? You'd have to bang them off your hand to get them to work. So we take those old flashlights, and I wouldn't put the main beam on the crawler, right? You just try to put the edge of it on, so it didn't scare him, but you could see him. So you'd sneak up on those things, and you'd get ready. Okay, he's still out. He's still out. Bam! You reach down there and grab him, and you squeeze him. And the minute you started to put some pressure on them, they would constrict, and they'd try to get back down that hole. So it would be a tug of war. 10-year-old Mike Avery's out there pulling on this night crawler. The night crawler is trying to go back down the hole. And I got a big smile, well, probably a grimace, because I'm trying to get this thing out of the hole. Sometimes they'd come, and you pick them up out of the hole, and you throw them in the can or whatever, the coffee can or whatever you had. And it's like, okay, there's one. And then sometimes you grab those things, there'd be a tug of war, and they'd rip in half. Like, oh, darn it, that one's gone. And then you had the whole thing of, okay, how do I keep these things alive for a few weeks? Bus bedding, or ripped up newspapers, shredded newspapers with some water. Any place you could put them where they could be warm and moist, preferably dark. No, that's a real art form. These days, most anglers are more likely just to go to the bait shop and pick up a dozen or 2 crawlers. But it was fun to pick, and you can still do them. Obviously, they're still out there. I just don't think many people do it. I don't because I don't use crawlers for fishing anymore. And I'll tell you right now, over the next several months, I'm gonna have a lot of fun with the concept of not using those slimy, dirty night crawlers for walleye fishing. I'm gonna let you in on a little secret. It's a joke. It's a joke. That's the only time I'm going to officially admit it. It's a joke. Not meaning it's a joke for people to use night crawlers. When I talk about having disgust for night crawlers and not allowing them on my boat, well, I don't allow them on my boat, but I get it. I know night crawlers can catch fish. I just don't use them. And so because I don't use them, I make a big deal about it, and I have a lot of fun here on the radio show, and I tell my buddies, don't you sneak night crawlers on my boat, and we go back and forth, and it's a lot of fun. Every year I have people say, Avery, you are an elitist snob. I can't believe you talk about people who use night crawlers and you make fun of them. I'm not making fun of them. I'm making fun of myself, and I'm just having fun. And in today's world, shouldn't we strive to have a little more fun with all the junk that's going on? I talked to Mr. Angler Quest the other day, Brad Dupuis, about my boat. He says, Mike, we're ready to rock. We're tweaking a couple of more things. One of them being the boat right now has a brand new 300 horse Mercury outboard on it. And Brad said, what do you think if we take the motor off your old boat and put it on this one? Because my old outboard has like 120 hours on it. It's just broken in. It's brand new, but it's just broken in. It would save me some time so I could just be ready to rock once I hit the water. I said, Brad, let's go for it. I'm fine with that. I'm completely fine with that. So he said, okay, you should have your new boat here very soon. What I'm hoping it doesn't do is the arrival of my new boat interfere with turkey season, because my turkey season is coming up here in just a couple of weeks. Is that true? I got to look at a calendar. Yeah, just a couple of weeks. I have ZZ, which is Southern Michigan private land, which the season goes from the end of April right on through May, through the end of mosquito season. I like it. It's a long season. It gives me plenty of opportunity, although I'd like to have the season wrapped up. I don't want it going into the end of May, because then I'll be ready to go on a Ontario bear hunt. In preparation for springtime turkey hunting, in preparation for a springtime Ontario bear hunt, I took my crossbow out the other day and I sighted it in. I got a new crossbow. I made a switch, got a new crossbow. I actually got a 10-point crossbow. I took the 10-point scope off it, and I put a Vortex Crossfire 2 scope that I had on my previous crossbows. I put it on that 10-point. So I had to start from scratch in dialing it in and sighting it in. And the interesting thing about that crossbow scope is you actually zero it at 40. It's not zeroed at 20. You can shoot it at 20. You have a 20 and a 30-yard reticle above the 40, but you zero it at 40 yards. And then you go back to 80 yards and you shoot at the target. Now, don't get all riled up. I'm not about to shoot a turkey, a bear, a deer, or anything at 80 yards with a crossbow, because that's the knock. People say, well, no, the bow can shoot that far. I will not hunt that far. But the reason you shoot at 80 yards, then you look at your target and you see, where did the arrow hit? And it's not a bolt, it's an arrow. Where did the arrow hit? If the arrow hit low, then you turn down the adjustment on your scope to a lower setting. If the arrow hits high, you turn the speed up. Now, speed and magnification, when you look at a crossbow scope and you look at the adjustment on it, a lot of people don't understand this. They think you're only adjusting the magnification, but what you're doing is adjusting that second focal plane so it lines up for the reticles, matching the speed of your bow. So in this case, I got it dialed in at about 350, which means it's shooting about 350 feet per second. It's advertised to shoot faster than that, about 350 feet per second. So now it's zeroed at 40. At 80, the 80-yard reticle hits right where it should be. So now my 20, 30, 40, 50, all those will line up directly, and you don't have to guess, okay, no, do I put it between this hash mark and this hash mark? No, it's right on now. So I'm ready to rock, and I'm actually pretty excited about it. I did try something, though. I bought have you heard of this? It's called Bog Pod, BOGPOD. And what it allows you to do is lock your rifle or bow in while you're sighting it in and potentially hunting. I would never take this thing hunting. It's way, way, way too heavy. But for sighting in, it was nice because I could put the bow out there and get it lined up and then lock it in and pull the trigger and know that it was no user error on my part to sight it in. But I got to figure out something else to do because it is too heavy to hunt with. There's no way I'm lugging that thing through the woods. I've been keeping an eye on the local turkey population. You probably have been too. The big flock I've been seeing about a half a mile from where I'm planned to hunt opening morning has dispersed. I'm seeing a few birds out in that field, but those other birds are starting to work to the southeast, which is the direction I need them to go. So I'm pretty excited about that. We had a meeting the other night at my church, Trinity Monitor, an official debrief of our Trinity Monitor wild game dinner and auction. Many of you were involved in that, and the reason I'm bringing this up is I want to thank you for your support. We actually set a new record. It was the best one we've had yet. So thank you. If you were there in person joining us, if you were there, if you donated something to us, we appreciate your generosity, and you made that event a huge, huge success. This is Easter weekend, isn't it? A very special day of the year for me and others who believe like I do. I understand that we need to have the Easter bunny, and we need to have chocolate eggs, and we need to have the, all that, the Easter baskets and all that stuff. I understand that the kids enjoy that. And it's a lot of fun, right? Easter egg hunts, all that. I get it. But I'm going to ask you to keep something in mind. The real reason for Easter is not the Easter bunny or chocolate eggs or even Michigan brand hams. The real reason for Easter is something more. The real reason for Easter is to recognize and celebrate an empty tomb, resurrection, salvation. In the Christian faith, of which I am a member, this is the single most holy, the single most important time of the year, because it's what paves the way for eternal life. If this offends you, I don't care. It's something I need to say because it's something I believe. Life can be hard these days. I could not get through life without some help. And I choose to look to that empty tomb for my help. So I would just ask you to keep that in mind. The real reason for this Easter celebration as you go throughout this weekend, keep that in mind. And I think your life will go a little better. Coming up after the break, Brian Burrows of Trout Unlimited, then Tony Smoker of Mad Hatter Jigs coming up in hour number 1 of this week's Outdoor Magazine. Well, I've never had anybody give me grief for preaching. I've never had anybody give me grief for it. Except for you, Charlie. All right, my friends, I got to go. Have a good day. Keep your head low. Don't get hit by lightning. And I'll see you tonight at 7 o'clock for another edition of Wednesday Night Live right here on Mike Avery Outdoors.